My name is Hannah. Hold on. My name is Hannah, and this is my booty budget. That's what I always want to say. My name is.
No, that was a bad one.
My name is Hannah. My name is Hannah, and this is my friend Julia.
And this is Hannah's beauty budget. Oh, I don't understand how you look at the camera like you're. It's weird. Like you look at the camera like you're talking to someone who's like sitting right there, but no one's sitting right there unless Joe's sitting right there while you're doing all these things.
Never. Welcome to the second ever episode of My Beautiful Friend. This is my beautiful friend Julia, and she is the star of the show today. Julia is an environmental lawyer and a law professor, and she doesn't really wear makeup. Right.
As you can see.
And she's not wearing any makeup right now, although her beautiful, perfect skin belies that fact.
I feel like under these lights, the truth is being revealed.
It's the opposite. And these lights like blur. They're like beauty lights. Yeah.
Oh.
What we're doing this time, as you can see, I'm already wearing makeup. I don't know if you can tell. And I'm going to put makeup on Julia.
Here's what is happening.
Okay.
Later, I'm going to see the Avengers with Ollie.
Whoa!
Yeah. So I could be a person who shows up with like crazy makeup and then just sits in the dark.
Yeah.
Or I could like go for something understated because I'm just going to the theater.
I don't know, blush draping?
Oh.
Maybe. Because what I've been really into
Sure,
is
editorial blush
as
draping.
everybody knows, I've been really into sparkly all over the lids, and I'm really into blush draping.
I can't
so
tell.
I would love to do that. So I'm going to pick some makeup out from there, and while we're doing that, Julia's going to answer one of the questions from
Oh my gosh.
the Q&A. So I put out a call for questions on my community tab. Fairly Girly Beauty says, I'd love to hear Julia talk about Flint pipelines and how common oil spills are, or some of the lawsuits filed by high school kids against the government because of pollution and climate change. So that's the one. Why don't you give a little context? Because
Yes,
I, for example,
sure.
I don't really know that much about this. So explain what they are, and I'll pick the makeup.
So I'm choosing to answer the part of the question that has to do with climate change lawsuits filed by the high school students. And in fact, I think there are some students who are even younger than high school age. I think the plaintiffs now range in age between like 11 or 12 and then into their early 20s. The contention of the lawsuit is that the United States government over the past many years has supported a number of policies that have led to the acceleration of climate change. Without getting too much into legalese, the contention of these plaintiffs in the lawsuit is that there's a public trust right to a healthy environment, which means that the government owes us a duty to make sure that we have access to a healthy environment and that our future children grow up on a planet that's safe for them. The plaintiffs in the lawsuit are alleging that the government has failed its duty. They're advancing this really kind of novel legal theory, and I think there are many in the legal community that are watching this case with great interest. They're not sure whether or not it will actually be successful, but if it is, it would be really meaningful.
Are they suing for money?
I think what they're suing for is injunctive relief. So they're suing to get the government to do the things that it should be doing, which is to adopt policies that will, stymie climate change.
That is so amazing.
Yeah, because it's a public trust doctrine.
Yeah, so they're basically
So what they're
saying that
is,
we shouldn't just be doing this, or the government shouldn't just be doing this to be awesome, but rather it's like a basic right of the citizens.
Yeah, exactly. And the government has breached its duty to the citizens and not doing this.
You have such good skin. I don't feel like we need to put stuff on your skin.
Yeah.
But I was thinking maybe we could use a primer.
Okay.
So this is the Becca Backlight Priming Filter. I'm just going to put this on your fingers and then just spread it all over like a lotion.
Like all over my whole face.
Yeah, but don't get that cat hair in there. Cat hair. Does Julia tango? Does she fit all her makeup in one bag like Julene? You want the answer?
Yes. The answers are no, I don't tango, at least not in the way that Julene does. I once...
Wait, in what way do you tango?
in the way that I like went to 2 tango classes with you, and then like sometimes I've gone to Milongas.
You've never heard of it.
I've never heard of tango. I have in fact
Tango by association.
I tangoed once or twice.
I'm gonna do soap in your brows.
Okay.
So then, but answer the question.
Oh,
about
soap
the,
brows!
Yeah.
I've been so curious about this.
So Julia has really different eyebrows from me. They're a really different shape. I mean, maybe people can see. You can see that they're really different shape. So I'm just curious how the soap brows will go.
All right.
But can you fit all your makeup in one bag like Julene?
Yes, for sure. I can fit all my makeup probably like in this hand. And like 90% of it is things that Hannah decluttered to me that I'm very grateful for.
We've known each other since way before I was into YouTube or even into makeup.
Does
I
YouTube even exist?
This is working amazing.
Okay,
Your
I'm
brows.
really excited.
I'm so into it.
Wait,
Look at the difference between your 2 brows.
Whoa.
Hold on. Maybe we should do like a close up. Maybe you can just like put your face, like just look at the, can you see the difference? Can people see the difference? It's amazing. Soap brows for life. So this is not the recommended soap. The recommended soap is clear glycerin soap. So like Pears, you know Pears soap?
I don't know
It's
anything.
It's spelled like pear, like
but
pears,
does it
like
smell
like the
Is
fruit.
it smelled like bears?
It smelled like
It
like
smelled like
pears.
it's spelled, and it's spelled like pears, the fruit.
I'm not a makeup artist, so I'm just like, we're just like flying by the seat of our pants over here. But your brows are definitely sticking up.
That's what I've always wanted.
Is it?
No.
So-
I look like a wolf now.
No, you just look like editorial, darling.
Do I look like a fabulous French girl from 1979? Because that's what I want to look like.
Yes. It's really recent in our relationship as friends. Wait, that's not a really weird way to say friendship. It's really recent in our friendship that makeup is like a thing. Like we've been friends since before makeup has been friends with me.
I feel like makeup was a little bit friends
I mean, makeup
with
was
you.
there. Yeah.
Well,
You're
so
right,
like
you're
here
right.
was the way that like makeup was friends with Hannah when I first met
Yes,
Hannah.
tell the
Was
people.
that when I first met Hannah, she was the writer in residence at a private boys' school, which meant that she was teaching English to like 15 and 16-year-old boys, and we were at the time ourselves like 22. And so basically, what would happen is that like every week we would go over to Hannah's house, and she lived in this like the place where she taught was on the grounds of this like beautiful place that had these neo-Gothic buildings, and she lived in the garret of one of those buildings.
I lived in the school. I was in
Yeah,
residence at the school.
And we went over there, and we would like go through Hannah's closet, and she would be like, does this outfit make me look old enough? Does this outfit make me look older? What about this lipstick? That's like what
I was just trying to look older.
You were trying to look older so that they would take you seriously.
Yeah.
So that you would be like an authority figure.
But really the secret is don't smile before Christmas.
The rule I live by.
Since this all happened where makeup became like a good friend to me, I've been giving Julia makeup. So when I declutter stuff, a lot of the times I either give her a bag that I picked or I give her first pick. And so she's been wearing more makeup than ever before, meaning like makeup at all.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I wouldn't say that makeup is a good friend to me. Makeup is more like my cool cousin that visits once every 3 months.
Tell how your husband feels about it.
I think he's wary of a bold lip.
He's like, "Arr!"
Like he's not doing that anymore. But at first, like when I would wear red lipstick, he'd be like, "What is that?"
What did I give you? There was like one red lipstick that I gave you.
I can't
The
remember
original
which
one. I feel like
Did you give me the NARS Star Woman? Is that the little thing?
Yes.
Yeah, I put it on one day before we went to brunch with a friend, and he was like,
What is that on your face?
and then I was like,
Do you like it? How do you think it makes me look?
and he said,
You look like a harlot.
I didn't mean it in a bad way.
it was
But-
just his observation.
Yeah, he was just surprised. And then recently,
Oh, the
because-
smoky eye.
Yes, because people
Yes, I got a
like,
frantic.
Yes, right. So I panic texted Hannah because we got invited. It was a black tie event. We got invited on like 2 days' notice. I like pulled out a dress that I had from somebody's wedding, and then I was like, well, crap, I like better put some stuff on my face, but I don't know how to do that at all. So then I texted Hannah and was like, how do I make a smoky eye on my face? And then she sent me a really amazing series of text messages telling me exactly what to do, including with pictures, which was very helpful. And then I somehow managed to produce something approximating a smoky eye on my face. And I went to this thing, but the point of the story is that it was a smoky eye and a nude lip, and Ollie was like really about that. He was
Nice.
really into the smoky eye, nude lip kind of thing. I don't know how he's going to feel about soap brows, but we'll find out later.
They look so good. I'm like listening to you and nodding and smiling, and in my head I'm just like,
Julia's brows look so good. I did such a good job.
there's something that I wanted to tell you. I don't know if this will be like something we should keep in the video, but Joe has been testing, how can I even explain it? He's been like keeping extremely careful track of Sadie. He's trying to find out which kind of food Sadie likes. So he went to the cat food store. That's what he told me. I don't know where he went. I don't know where he went, but he went to the cat food store and he brought home like 10 cans of cat food, all different kinds. And every day he's been peeling the label off and then taking notes on the label of Sadie's reaction to the food. I saw them all last night and I can't believe like this is the first time that I've seen them all.
So, oh my God, he's using every B. What is a B plus minus?
This is like a classic example. It's like starry eyes, 7 B++. The face represents
Is this a face that Sadie made?
the face represents her initial reaction when he first gives her the food. The 7.5 represents maybe how much of the food she eats, and then the letter is like the letter is like how her
Overall
attitude.
grade.
No, it's specific to like her attitude over the course of the day and the next day. Like how does Sadie behave? Is she like needy? Is she whiny? Is she happy? Is she snuggly? And he's like rating the food based on her behavior over the
Need a lot more information.
B plus minus.
Geez.
Look at this one. It looks like a bat.
B plus plus plus.
It's like bat 6, 5.5 in parentheses,
Ooh.
B plus plus.
Smiley face 8 A minus.
Someone asked, what is one of Hannah's most embarrassing moments that you've witnessed?
I don't. Hannah doesn't have embarrassing moments.
That's not true. It's not like I've never done anything embarrassing.
No.
I mean, I feel like you probably witnessed me like having crushes on boys or like having kind of.
Oh, but I don't think that's embarrassing. It's just like
That's
life.
true. Those crushes on boys aren't embarrassing.
Crushes on boys
No,
are just life.
you're right. You're right.
I mean, we all did things in our 20s that were like ill-advised.
We all acted a fool. Well, is that grammatically correct? We each
one of us
each one of us acted a fool all the time,
pretty much all the time,
constantly,
consistently, from
Yeah.
like the ages of 22 to like 28.
to like last year.
To like now.
I'm gonna ask the question and then I'm gonna start putting eye makeup on you.
Okay.
What is it like to be a woman in a male-dominated profession?
Hannah and I spend a lot of time talking about these questions.
We do indeed.
So they're questions that are very near and dear to my heart.
Okay, but close your eyes.
Okay. I think as many women as you talk to about this, as many different answers you'll likely get to this question. For me, I actually didn't really notice the gender disparities in my profession until I was several years in. So and by saying that, what I mean to say is that when I started practicing law, I graduated from law school at a time when about half of my class was women, half my entering class at my law firm was women. You know, at that time, at the age of 23, I didn't feel in a meaningful way any disadvantage as a result of being a woman. I felt like, oh, I'm here, I made it. And then around 4 or 5 years into practice, all of the women seemed to disappear. And I realized that what was going on was that these women who had been in my cohort but were maybe just a couple years older than me, they were all starting to have children. And even though big law firms can give generous maternity leave, it can be challenging to come back into that situation after you've had a child. And I saw a number of my friends go through the kind of balancing act that you have to go through when you're a woman at a big law firm, transitioning back in, trying to get people to take you seriously, trying to get staffed on the cases that you want to get staffed on, and get the experience that you want to get. I also saw people making decisions for those women that weren't the decisions that those women wanted. So for example, I had a good friend who was a litigator like me, which means you're a lawyer that goes to trial, that tries cases. And she really wanted trial experience. When you're a junior attorney at a big law firm, it's rare to get trial experience. And so you kind of leap at those opportunities because they're what helps you grow as a lawyer. And she had had a baby. I think her baby was maybe 6 or 9 months old when this case was about to go to trial. She'd worked on the case all the way up to her maternity leave. She'd worked on the case when she returned. She knew it really well. She was ready. She wanted to go to trial. She discussed it with her husband. They understood what a time commitment that was and what that would mean for her. Long nights and weekends and being away and travel. And she went into the partner on the case, who was a woman, by the way, and said, look, I really need this experience. I really want this experience. Like, put me on this, staff me on this trial. And the partner was like, oh, you don't realize how much of a time commitment it's going to be. You don't know how hard it's going to be. I've lived this before. I know how much work it is. You have a little baby. You should be spending time with your family. Just trust me. This isn't what you want right now. And my friend was like, no, this is what I want. I want to get this experience. I've talked it over with my husband. I know it's going to be hard, but I'm ready. And the partner was like, look, I'm doing you a favor. I know you can't see it now, but I am. And why don't you take this other case that isn't going to trial right now and work on that. And you can be involved in this case that's going to trial, but I don't think that you should, I don't think you should second chair the trial.
They wouldn't let her.
They wouldn't she didn't get to go. And she ended up leaving that law firm after a number more months because of feeling that way, feeling like people weren't hearing, they were making judgment calls about what she should be doing based on the fact that she was a woman
who was also a mother.
Child, yeah. Right. And then
if it had been her husband who had her job and they had the same baby at the same time,
right, there would have been no question.
No
of course,
issue,
he would have
because
gone
they would have
to trial.
that
he had
there was a wife at home.
And those are the kinds of things you just kind of see happen. You see people, it's not like people don't trust their judgment or think they're good lawyers. It's just that sometimes they get sidelined on cases.
Yeah.
And then you are spending time away from your family, and to do this, it's a grueling job. And it can start to feel, I think, a little bit like it's not worth it when people aren't giving you the choice assignments that you want and you aren't getting to do the things that you want to do.
Because you're there to be successful.
Yeah.
And
someone's telling you basically, no, you can't do this. Or you can't do both things. And then there was, of course, the other dynamic, which is just that I think it's easier for people in general to identify with people who are similar to themselves. And so, it's just a fact that in most law firms, about 80% of the partnership is still male, and most of those are white males. They just identify with the younger male associates in a way that they don't sometimes with female associates. And that means, inviting guys out for a beer to talk about their career path when, a woman doesn't get that same opportunity, being taken under somebody's wing, being offered, a seat at a trial, or, to write an important motion for a case. In many cases, men may not even be totally aware of what's at work, what's going on.
Of course, it's not like they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
It's just that in order to work against kind of an instinct that's been bred into all of us, like I think men, women, and everyone in between, I think we all have had a certain default bred into us that isn't necessarily the way forward for equality. And so they're not evil. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think sometimes I've heard like every story from life.
And
it's mostly just that they're not trying to check themselves. Because
Yeah.
I think a lot of them, especially the men you've told me, they haven't chosen to believe
There's
that
a
there
lot of
might
awareness.
actually, that the default might actually be damaging women in their immediate vicinity, because that's a really tough thing to believe. It's really hard to stomach. If you believe you're a good person, you believe you're a good man, you've been going along your life, you believe you support women, you love women, you champion women, you hire women, you think you're so awesome because you've like hired women into your law firm. It's really hard to then believe that there's an additional thing going on that you have to do on top of all that, which is that you have to make sure that your basic instinct for behavior is actually also going to move us in the direction of gender equality, because in a lot of cases it's not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think what I learned as a woman, especially as I got more senior in law firms, was that I needed to be really direct about what I wanted. And sometimes even that didn't work, but I realized kind of no one was going to help me. I had to help myself, and I had to say exactly what I needed, at least so that I could live with myself, knowing that I had been as clear as I could be about what I wanted and where I wanted to go.
All right. Well, you're very glittery and messy and like lightly grungy,
That's
which is
what I
exactly
wanted.
what
I told you I wanted to look like a French girl from 1979.
But I think you need to put on a lot of mascara
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
Does Julia inspire the character of the same name who appears in your poetry?
Well, that's a question for you.
I happen to have a number of friends named Julia, or have happened to know the person asking this question, Louisa. Thank you for reading my poems, but the answer is definitely yes, but it's not as if every single poem about Julia is about this Julia. Julia in my work is like an amalgam of not just all of the Julias, but all of the women I've known. Someone asked, how did you meet or become close? You can also use this little hand mirror if you want to. Someone else also asked, what makes you happy now in life as opposed to 10 years ago?
Oh my goodness.
Oh, you're doing great with the mascara.
Okay, we met because...
We kind of already said,
Yes.
we were both living in
You
DC.
were
Julia
both-
was in law school.
We had
I
a
was-
mutual friend that Hannah went to college with, and I did activism with during our college years, and she moved to DC, and then Hannah moved to DC, and she hooked us up, and Hannah was wearing a fabulous red coat, and I owned a less fabulous red coat, and that was how I knew we were
were
gonna
both
like each
wearing
other.
red coats.
We were both wearing red coats.
Wow, what mascara is that?
It's the Chanticleer or whatever.
The Chanticleer.
I can't even.
Bougie AF.
I'm bougie AF.
But it's really good.
Well, you know, I don't buy makeup, but when I do.
I'm going to tell everyone quickly what I did.
Okay.
So I used this Becca blush palette, these two, Wisteria and Snapdragon, all over the lids, outer corner, all over the cheeks. I just used reds and dark reds and burgundies all to sculpt the eye. I didn't use any brown or black or anything like that. A subscriber in Australia who's a makeup artist, so amazing, sent me some MAC glitters, which I've never had before. So it's the Reflex Transparent Red and the Reflex Transparent Teal. So I used those with a glitter glue. And then I used a little bit of JD Glow Unexpected. So it's just a bunch of glittery, transparent stuff all over the lid. This little pot of the Lemonhead LA glitter that Wendy sent, and I just fished out one tiny little, not little, but it's like the biggest shape, and stuck it on the inner corner of each eye. Now just blink your eyes slowly, and then turn your head a little bit left and right.
Oh, I've seen you do this before.
And
How my bangs getting in the way.
just of your cheeks.
Okay, I think I have to answer the thing about 10 years
Oh,
ago
yeah.
and what makes
This
us
is a great
happy.
final question.
This is for both of us, right?
Yes. What makes you happy now in life as opposed to 10 years ago?
What was 10 years ago? What happened 10 years ago? When was
We
10 years
were
ago? We were 23?
3 or 24.
Okay.
Yeah, 23.
I was just like a little wee baby lawyer.
Yeah, you had just started work, and I
Just-
had just moved to Portland probably, and I was just the beginning of my Tango Vagabond years.
Oh God, that was like that was also the throes of like the end of a terrible relationship.
Oh, yeah.
So probably when things seemed like okay with that, that made me
Yeah.
happy.
That's interesting because I have similar, I mean, I was already with Joe at that time. Like we had already met. But when I think about that, like the first couple of years of our relationship, I was so young. And I feel like so much of my daily happiness hung on whether things were going well between us.
Yeah.
And we, you know, like we obviously are life partners, but we're obviously suited to each other in a lot of ways. But we're also both extremely passionate and can be contentious, and we're both very stubborn, and we just have two strong personalities, which is why we get along so well, because we, you know, he doesn't let me walk all over him, which is something I'm prone to do, I guess. That's why I like stood up and took notice when we met, because I was like, oh, okay, like this is, you know, it's like instead of just me being like, and hello, like you do what I want, it's like this, you know. But it was like my happiness lived and died based on whether I felt like, gosh, this is so embarrassing. I don't even want to say it on the internet, but there was a time in the first couple years in my early 20s when I felt like my daily happiness was based on like how convinced I was that Joe really loved me. And he did, and he does, obviously. But now, 10 years later, it's not like I take his love for granted. It's just that I am like working on my projects and myself, and I'm so grateful for him, and I'm so grateful that he's there. And I work on cultivating gratitude all the time for it. And I think I do okay. I mean, I think we do okay at that. But
as an outside observer,
I'm so glad. And this is why I'm actually willing to say this on the internet. I am so glad about that change. I'm so glad that now, as a woman in my early 30s, I'm prioritizing my own projects. And it's like, we have good days and we have bad days. And sometimes it feels like we love each other more, and sometimes it feels like we love each other less. Like that's just what long-term relationships are like. But those ups and downs aren't truly the ups and downs of my actual core happiness. The ups and downs of my core happiness have to do with my career. And what makes me happy is getting my work published and getting like contacted by people in the industry who might help me become more successful as a writer. And that comes from having written really strong work. And so having been successful on the page and knowing that the work is good, and then having it make its way into the hands of readers, that is what makes me happy. And that's like what my happiness is like hanging on. And even though it's in the context of a life where I'm in a healthy relationship, it's that thing of like good love is where you're looking forward together in the same direction instead of like looking at each other. And I feel like in my early 20s, I was really, really inclined to just look at Joe and hold on and have that be like the thing that defined whether I was happy that day. And maybe you were going through a similar thing with he who shall not be named, Julia's garbage boyfriend from her early 20s.
Yeah, I think so much of my happiness at that time hinged on the status of that relationship at any given point in time. It's a little bit different. Like neither Ollie nor I think has that same kind of like strong personality that you and Joe both have. I mean, we have our strongness and our personalities.
You're just right. It's just so true. Like it's not like you don't have personality.
Yeah,
like
no,
the level of personality is equal. It's just that, I don't know, Joe and I are more inclined to just be like, and you guys are more inclined to be like, is it okay?
Oh my God. Yeah. Here's the story about Ollie and me. We slept on like the opposite side. Like, you know how you have a side of the bed? So for like the first maybe 9 months of our relationship, we each slept on the side of the bed that was not the side we preferred to sleep on, because we each thought the other person preferred to sleep on the side of the bed that they were sleeping on. And then at some point we realized that we were doing this, and we were like, we should just sleep on the side. So like, how come no one mentioned this ever before? Like,
because you were afraid to offend the other, afraid to inconvenience. Or I know, because you were afraid that if you brought it up, the other person would acquiesce to switch, even though they secretly didn't want to. Yeah. Whereas Joe and I literally started fighting about both wanting the same side of the bed like the second day that we moved in together.
But I love that neither one of us wanted the same side of the bed. We wanted the total opposite side of the bed.
Whereas but neither of us is willing to give it up, and we both want the same side of the bed.
I'm going to say this, and I don't know that it's going to sound like quite right. What I was going to say, and it's not actually quite right. What I was going to say was that I don't think about it. But that's not true, because there's a moment every day when I think about how grateful I am for Ollie. I don't agonize about like the maintenance of the relationship.
Yeah.
I know he's there. I know I'm there for him. I know we're going to be there for each other, and that when things are difficult, and they have been at various points in our relationship, kind of like externally, that we're going to have each other as supports. It frees up for me all this mental space that I didn't have when I was in my early 20s, when I was in that relationship. All my mental space was devoted towards the maintenance of that relationship. So I couldn't think about anything else. I couldn't think about whether my job was really making me happy, or like how much time I was spending at work. I mean, like I could do my job and like propel myself forward, but I couldn't really think about what I was doing in the world, and like what I wanted, and who I was, and what really excited me. And being with Ollie gives me the freedom to devote my mental energy to that, to other things, to thinking about my work beyond just like, this is the work that I have to do today, but like, what are the issues that I really want to explore in my work? What will make me feel like I'm growing in my work?
Yeah.
You know, how do I feel I can best contribute? How can I best help other people? Because I'm not spending every waking moment worrying about
Like
him.
agonizing. Yeah. And I think it's interesting because we're telling the same sort of story, but you were at that time, the relationship we're talking about, it's not the same person. So you were with someone, and the nature of that relationship was that you were thinking about it all the time, and it like kind of consumed you and made you less able to be your best self in the rest of your life. I have that same story, but I'm still with the same person. So it's not as if, I mean, I think that was not a good relationship, but it's not as if that's the only, I think that the takeaway isn't necessarily like, we're lucky because we're in good relationships, so that means we don't have to think about it. I think that is true, and we are both, it's interesting, but we're both in relationships that have lasted this point for almost a decade, or over a decade for me, maybe almost a decade for you. So it is maybe a natural consequence of long-term relationship that it becomes less something you need to be freaking out about all the time. But I also think that the change primarily is within us, because I think that sort of choosing, but also defaulting to spend a lot of your mental energy on men, or the men you're dating, the man you're with, the man you've fallen in love with, the man you're chasing, whatever, is for many young heterosexual women. How can I say this? It's both a way of fitting into a certain mold and a way of hiding from being fully yourself, and only having the challenge be fulfill your destiny. It was both because we had sort of been trained to focus on that, and because we were young and hormonal and passionate, and we really were in love, but it's also just, as time has gone on, it's been like, oh shit, like one life to live, bitches. Men, okay, fine, they're here. These guys, they're great. They're doing the dishes. We love them. We sleep with them. We like, they're great. But like, we don't want our whole present, past, and futures to just be consumed by the way in which we relate to them. And so there's been, at least for me, a little bit of like loosening of the grip on what kind of woman I am to Joe.
I think I've just become much more comfortable with the aspects of myself I don't like. Yeah. And I don't mean to say that I'm comfortable with them existing. I'm not. But I'm more comfortable with doing the work on myself that I need to do about those aspects of my personality. And I think that part of what was going on at that time in my life was that I was with someone who needed a lot of emotional attention and care, and had a lot going on in his own life. And I think that I gravitated towards that because it was a way also for me to not focus on my own issues and my own struggles. It was like, oh, this person needs me. This person requires all of my emotional attention. And I'm a good person for being supportive of him and being there for him.
And a good
of
woman.
Course, yes.
And
a
like
good
an
woman,
ideal
right,
woman.
Of course,
Yeah.
right. I mean, I think I very much was trying to be like, I'm going to be cool about like this thing that he did that was super hurtful, or like, I'm just going to be, because I know he's struggling. And I think I just, kind of martyred myself and was kind of like, oh, I just need to be there for him. And it came from, I really did love this person. It came from a very genuine place. But I think when I met him and when I was in this kind of very tumultuous relationship with him, I had a moment where I was kind of like, well, you just can't have any issues, Julia, because there's only space for one person in this relationship to have issues, and like, you're not the person. When we separated, I was like, wait, like all that stuff is still there. And then I went through a long
Then you had to
period,
work
then
on
I had to
it.
work on it,
Yeah.
and luckily I met a partner who is, who loves me for who I am and who is cool with me, like being in the constant project of working on myself, which is fun sometimes and not other times. I do feel like I have gotten to know myself better as I've gotten older. It's helped me be better for the people who I care about.
And for yourself.
Yeah, and for myself.
And for what you want to do with your life, which is a bunch of awesome
exactly.
stuff, So also hanging out with you made me happy then, but it still makes me happy now.
Agreed. It still makes me feel euphoria in my heart.
Oh my gosh, it's Joe.
Joe's home.
He went to the cat food store.
What I did is I bought
Guy.
2 each of the top 4 from this past week.
Okay.
Plus, I got a few extra ones just to try them out. Coincidentally, she liked the most expensive and the cheapest best.
But nothing in between.
Well, she's
that's like me with
she's
makeup.
a high-low.
Gotta mix the highs and the
Yeah,
lows.
exactly.
I think that's it, you guys. There were more questions, but we can't answer them all. Thank you so much for being on my channel, Julia. This was the best.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad that we did this. All right, thank you so. Wait, you
Yes.
tell it. You say it. You say it.
Wait, thank you so much for watching, and I want you to remember to take extra good care of yourself right now. It's not this week anymore. It's right now. I want you to remember
My
to take
cheeks hurt so much. It's like I'm having
good care of yourself right now, so you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world. Oh wait,